Hey gang, welcome back to Make a Mixtape. Today's episode is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's the annual grab bag episode. Here's the basic outline. First thing we're going to do, we're talking to Stuart Diaz about some songs. Stu used to be in a band that I saw live all the time called the Soggy Po Boys. And now he does a bunch of other stuff, including a musical project called Diaspora Radio, where a rotating band reinterprets and performs an album in full. Like this summer in Dover, as part of the Kachiko Arts Festival on July 17th, they are doing Let It Be. The one by the Beatles, not the Replacements. This podcast is one of the few places where I feel like you'd need to specify that. Anyway, Stu is here on the podcast because he recently spoke at Creative Mornings, and the theme was curate. So he also curated a guest mixtape for the event. So I interviewed him about his picks for an Instagram reel that I put up last week, but an Instagram reel is only so long, you know? And I thought the conversation could stand to be shared more or less in full. A link to Stu's mixtape can be found in the show notes. After that, friend of the show, Caitlin Piper is back. She has a new record out that's called In Cursive, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we need to talk about Aaron Sorkin. The occasion is the recent release of a trailer for The Social Reckoning, a sequel to The Social Network. I have some opinions that I wish to express about that. And then while we're on the subject of Sorkin, we will be inducting a film into the Make a Mixtape movie canon. And then, after that, I have an old, unreleased conversation from 2022 about Sorkin's movie Molly's Game, and I figured now was as good a time as any to release it. That's what you have to look forward to on today's episode of Make a Mixtape, but before all that, I have a clip that I want to share from my grandmother.
Hi, this is Effie. I'm 87 years old, and I just wanted to inquire if anybody else has the same thing happened to them.
That's my grandmother, who appeared on a very early episode of this podcast, and she posted this video on Instagram a couple of days ago. Yes, my 87-year-old grandmother is an avid Instagram user.
I'm a really good sleeper. I sleep through every night. But every once in a while, I get woken up in the middle of the night, and something will come into my head that I have no idea where it comes from, and it's kind of weird, you know? 2 nights ago, at 1:30 in the morning, I got woken up all of a sudden, and there's a song running in my head, a song that had been written back in 1917. I had never really heard of it. It wasn't one of my favorite songs. I don't remember ever singing it, but it's running through my head, and it ran through my head 3 or 4 times. I knew every single word. I fell back to sleep. I get up in the morning, and I couldn't remember that for the life of me. All day long, I'm thinking, trying to remember that song, and I just couldn't remember it. Then I go to bed last night. The minute my head hit the pillow, there it is again. The song is there. So I quickly wrote down the title, and I just want to know if you've ever heard it, because it's really an old timer. I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey, better be ready by 8:30. Now, honey, don't be late. I'm gonna be there when the band starts playing. Remember when we get there, honey, the 2-step, we're gonna dance them all. I'm gonna dance off both my shoes when they play those Jelly Roll Blues. Tomorrow night at the Docktown Strutters Ball. So what do you think? Do you ever hear that before?
I had never heard that song, Nani, but I love it now. Stu Diaz is here to talk about the songs that he chose for this month's Creative Mornings mixtape. So the theme here is curate, Stu. So talk to me about, why you wanted to do this in the first place.
Yeah. So when I was reached out to, I felt like I was a natural fit for this topic for many reasons. One of which is I curate a series at the press room in Portsmouth every month called Diaspora Radio. This is year 4 of us doing that. And we pick a different album and play it start to finish. And it's all over the place, genre-wise, how well the album is known, how recently the album came out. We've done albums, from the 60s. We've done albums from 2025, 2026 actually. So it's kind of been all over the place, but it's been really fun doing that. And I also do a monthly playlist, which I curate and release for free to the public, that people can check out. So I was really excited to do this for Creative Mornings.
Well, so the first song that you chose, this is Hype Prototype by Pigeon.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this one, why this song was chosen.
So I always am on the lookout for new, weird music. But obviously, those words are totally subjective and mean different things to different people. So this one was really interesting to me because it has atmospheric elements, a really driving rhythm, almost like an 80s meets disco kind of vibe to it. And the vocals on it are so incredibly unique. You just don't hear bands make music like this all the time. So when I heard it for the first time, it just kind of jumped out at me.
Big dream, long night, light horse, let guide.
So another one is the Celestial Matari, the Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble.
Yes. So this one, I am very partial to the style of jazz that Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble does. There's a lot of bands that play music in a related sphere that have ended up on other playlists I've put out. The Circling Sun's a good example. The Orbital Ensemble is another good example. And it's very spiritual, very rhythmic driven, almost psychedelic jazz, where the song is on the slightly longer side, but it very much is a journey from start to finish. And it's something that you can have on, and there's a bunch of different elements going on, but you're somehow still able to connect with the world around you. And I think that it's really beautiful, and it incorporates elements like kalimba and just sort of non-traditional instruments that things that you don't really hear in jazz that often.
Yeah, it's funny. With a name like Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble, it is actually pretty accessible. I was thinking too about sort of from what I know about you and your work and the various, outfits that I've seen you perform with. I was like, this is interesting because it's like this is maybe like where you're heading. You know what I mean? like if you try to chart the path from like Soggy Po Boys to like some of the Diaspora Radio performances to like what was the band you performed with at BIPOC Fest last year?
Yeah, a band called Kuchera that very much has those elements, right, of like Haitian and Indian music kind of all smashed together. Yeah, it's been really fun doing that, and I think that's what sort of Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble really got at for me. Like, I really like music from all over the world, but I also really love jazz, and when I see those elements come together, it's always so fun.
Right on. All right, well, let's talk about Fifth Life.
Zach forgot to say the name of the artist here. It's Nana Rizzini.
Yeah, this one just kind of stuck out to me because it's so atypical. It's got pretty kind of driving beat, and there's elements of it that remind me of disco, that feel very disco-y to me. The song doesn't particularly feel like a disco song. Like, this record came out this year, but somehow sounds like it could have come out in like 1979.
What accounts for, you think, the fact that like we were starting to be able to, I feel like it's harder to sonically identify what year a song is from anymore. And it's like, bands used to do like retro pastiche, but you could tell. Like, you could tell. But now you can't. And
I think that's mostly true still in pop music. But I think in independent music, because this is my take on it, right? Sizzling hot take. Even like 10 years ago, let's say 15 years ago, the access to recording was relatively centralized. Like, most people had to go to a studio or at least have access to a lot of equipment. And now, because it's so decentralized and people can make music from their homes, people can make music by themselves. You don't need a crazy amount of very expensive equipment to make music. The sonic imprint of that studio, which would have affected most records going through that studio, is gone, right? That producer's ears that would say, I really like the piano to sound this way or something like that. That doesn't exist anymore. People are kind of charting their own course. And I think, especially in the independent space, because people's influences are so wide and varied sonically, even production wise, their influences are so wide and varied. And I honestly think it's a good thing that we can recognize, what year a record's from.
Yeah. That's a good hot take. We're gonna have to like make a little graphic for it, like
Yeah.
hot take alert,
Hot takes.
exclusive take.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Girl You Move Me. All right, now how you say like sway or
It's so zhuzh is how it's pronounced.
all right,
Uh,
I remember this being a huge topic of debate in my dorm room because it
yeah,
was when he did
the Life Aquatic.
soundtrack. Yeah, the Life Aquatic
Yeah,
soundtrack with the David Bowie
yeah.
song. Yeah.
This song, again, this is very recent. It either came out late last year or early this year. But this song is so wild because most of the time he sings in Portuguese. He sings this entirely in English, and it's so interesting. His voice is so compelling, and it sounds like the soundtrack to a Quentin Tarantino Western that hasn't been released yet. It's got this kind of driving acoustic guitar, but also like very atmospheric strings and synthesizers and stuff. And very much that kind of Western, like spaghetti Western kind of feel to it. And it was so interesting. And also, like, I'm a big fan of his broadly, and I kind of know him as, of course, the Life Aquatic acoustic Bowie stuff, which is amazing. But he also has like a very like insane electro funk catalog that has like a bunch of singers and a full horn section and like a slamming band. It's really, really cool. So this is a huge departure from sort of what I really know of this artist, and it's so interesting and cool.
Atmospheric is definitely the right word. It also sounds a lot like the GoldenEye pause music from Nintendo 64.
Yes, that is very, very, very true.
Very cool. Yeah, that's all we needed to do. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm looking forward to the talk.
Yeah, it should be fun. I have my run through with Molly tomorrow, so hopefully nothing catastrophic happens.
Public service announcement. You now can watch Stu's full talk at creativemornings.com/cities/PKX.
I was just at Michael Landgarden's house, or not his house. I was at someone's house last night, filming his band, and you posted a picture with the bass player today, Mark McElroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this world is too small.
He's great. It was his birthday yesterday.
Caitlin Piper, first of all, welcome back to Make a Mixtape.
Thanks for having me. It's great to see ya.
You got a new record out. It's called In Cursive. I was very proud to contribute in some small way to this record, which was basically just like helping you talk about what stool you should have on the album cover.
You've been a tremendous help the entire way, I would say. I really, really appreciate your support and your opinion, and I value your style is your taste is really good. Yeah.
But the main thing I think I should get credit for is the stool. It's just like that album cover. It's great. It really works. It really pops.
It came together. It did. I got stuck there for a while.
Let's talk about it coming together. How long have you been working on this record?
Well, the album release was supposed to be not this past May, but the May before. And what I had compiled was really kind of like an RPM, like do it yourself, last minute kind of project just to get my songs recorded all in one spot. And then I realized, well, first of all, the album release concert got canceled. It wasn't able to be hosted where it was supposed to be. I had a whole band of people that I hadn't worked with before, a ton with, that learned my music. They were ready to go. And there was just some issues with the venue, but it was the best thing possible. And one of those guys said, like, this is going to be the best thing for you, that this gets canceled now and it doesn't get released right now. And I thought, well, like my heart, like I was so ready to go. But then I went back and listened to the music and I realized like there's so many amazing people on the track. There's 13 different musicians, 12 Seacoast musicians and one random one from Nashville. Mm-hmm. And I really just wanted to honor what they gave to the music. So I took out some songs, I kept writing, I added more songs, and it's just been quite a journey, which also contributes to the name In Cursive. It's been a loopy, swirly kind of trip around, finding my people, finding the right process. It really feels like the Wizard of Oz, like in so many ways. Like you have to go here, meet this person, and this is the next part of your journey. And then in the end, you kind of realize like you have to do it yourself, right? You're the pull in the end. That home is with you. So yeah, it's just been a wild ride. Non-conventional though. Like this is not the proper way to go about making an album.
What was the process though? So were you like, was there primarily one studio that you worked with? I mean, you said 13 people, so obviously different tracks have sort of different bands.
Yeah. Somebody said, you really need to have this mixed by somebody else. Like you need to do it. So that led me to one person, and then that led to another person. Sometimes it was budgets and scheduling, being able to like, hey, like I could do these 3 songs for you right now, but I don't have time to fit in. Some people's process kind of led me in a different direction. There's some people wanted to sit down with me in person and talk through each little piece. Some people wanted to do all the work on their own, send it to me, get notes, and then bring it back. But it's kind of like different bands on different tracks, and I'm okay with that because it's still my style coming through because I wrote all of it. I'm playing acoustic guitar on every single song, so like that's consistent. My voice is consistent all the way through. And then at the end for that final push, Mark McElroy at the Electric Cave really came through for me in Portsmouth, and we spent some nights going through adding his songs, and he was kind of a one-man band all within himself. So like, what do you think about adding this to this track? I'm like, well, that sounds great, but like, I don't know anybody that plays that instrument. And then he would leave the room and he'd come back. He's like, well, here we are. So that was a great kind of finale, and he ended up mastering the whole album. One thing that I learned, so my song Mood Ring has a lot of percussion, like hand percussion in it. And Mark pulls out this egg carton and he has a bunch of shakers and they're all pitched. And I never thought, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that the shakers would have different pitches, but I thought what he had was like a set that he bought. But it turns out like, he's like, no, I went to the music stores and I listened and I made like wow. My perfect set of notes for these shakers. And I could hear that it did make a difference. So I learned there's a lot of thoughtful details kind of put in behind the scenes that maybe aren't as obvious.
That's the kind of stuff about music that I accept to be true, but also hate. Like when people talk about like drums being tuned to like B flat or something, you're like, drums aren't tuned. Right. But then you hear it and you're like, oh, maybe it is. And you're like, okay. Yeah. I don't love that. I think it makes it too scarily complicated. But
right.
At the same time, when you do that stuff, when you have somebody in your corner who's willing to break out the carton
on a pretty tight deadline too. It was good. I also, I learned some life lessons too, but I enjoyed everybody that I worked with. Like, I feel like I really walked away with like 13 new friends. And there was one person that played bass on a song for me, and I ended up meeting them out after they had already recorded on my song. Like, we had never met in person first. And it seems to be like, I like the variety of people. I like knowing I have options. All those cool friendships and the dynamics that come in. Everybody brings something different to each performance and recording. And so far, I could see where this I'm very lucky. It could have been terrible. I could have had to say like, no, I don't want this, but I want this from this person. But it worked out to be something really special. And I think that really speaks to our Seacoast community of how music scene, like how we operate together.
If there's a song you could point to on this record that maybe changed the most from where you started, and kind of took the most unexpected path, what would you say that is? What is the song that you're the most surprised when you listen to it, what it sounds like now?
Oh my goodness. I'd say a lot of the songs that have really strong guitar hooks in it. Like the first time that I heard, I've called it now, To You, once was Not Going Back to You, which is too long. The first time I heard the guitar opening on that, like I was in my room and actually put like the blanket over my face. I'm like, oh, this is real music. That was a moment. Everything that Guy did on Speechless was really cool because I think without that guitar part, that song isn't enough. And that was amazing. And he just took it and ran with it. I had my album release. It was great. It was at the press room and so many people came. It was this awesome night, but I had a great band behind me and it was so hard practicing because I felt like I was an audience member. Like I was like, oh wow, look at what they're doing. And then I realized I still had to play the guitar. I still had to sing the song. Like,
So this summer, you got some shows on the books. You got a 3S Art Space one.
Yes, the Loading Dock series, 3S Art Space on July 23rd. I'm psyched about that. I'm going to be at Strawberry Bank for their Tuesdays on the Terrace.
Oh, right on.
That's August 4th. I'm doing the Dover Cochico Arts Fest with a full band on August 7th and Newmarket's Arts in the Park on August 11th. The soonest gig I'm doing is on July 12th. I'm finally getting into Vinegar Hill. It's been this dream venue since I went to see a concert there. I just think it's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Oh, it's so pretty. Yeah. So excited about that, but I'll be with the Stray Horses and we're doing a Creedence Clearwater revival concert. And when they asked me to do it, I said, I don't think you need me on this one. Like, you're good. You're amazing. Like, what am I going to do? And then they sent me the set list and I get to sing Aretha Franklin. There's Carole King. It's kind of like a blend of like that era. And the Creedence songs really flow into this kind of soul pop thing that I love so much, even though it doesn't feel like it at first, but there's so many people that have covered that music. So I'm psyched to do that on July 12th and really honored because they said they want to play one of my songs too.
Awesome.
And that's been like one of my biggest, like, I don't know, it's real. Like I put music in the world and somebody likes it or they feel like connected to it. It's cool.
So something very important and very dangerous happened recently on the internet, which is that we got a trailer for a film called The Social Reckoning. This is a sequel to The Social Network, the landmark film by Aaron Sorkin and David Fincher. And this time Aaron Sorkin is going solo. He is directing the film himself. So obviously David Fincher is not returning, and therefore, perhaps unsurprisingly, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross will not be doing the score. Jesse Eisenberg is not returning to play Mark Zuckerberg. Instead, Jeremy Strong from Succession will be playing Zuck.
MARKZUCKERBERG.
And your occupation?
I'm a professional defendant.
And when this trailer hit the internet, it was met with a lot of derision and panic. And I would just like to say that I am very bullish on this whole thing. I know that Aaron Sorkin, with his sort of centrist establishmentarian tendencies, is not super popular anymore among, the youths. But not in my house, okay? Not the world I'm living in. In my house, we recognize greatness and we overlook certain things like the movie that he made about Lucille Ball. The Social Reckoning, it follows the story of a whistleblower from Facebook who raised concerns about the sorts of things that leadership was aware the platform was doing, to young girls, to your grandparents, whatever. Said whistleblower will be played by Mikey Madison, another house favorite here at Make a Mixtape.
I ran classifiers on political groups where 30% of content hits multiple risk vectors.
Hang on, I don't understand what you're saying.
Aren't you a tech reporter?
Ish.
Ish?
Then at the end of the trailer, somebody says, I don't know what this girl thinks she's doing. And then a journalist, played by Jeremy Allen White, says, she's disrupting. Now, is that a little on the nose? Is that a little corny? Yes. Is it also iconic? Yes, it is. To see my dad, Aaron Sorkin, weaponizing a term like disrupting and turning it back on these big tech fucks, I love it. I know that it doesn't do anything. I know it doesn't move any needles. Let me have it anyway, okay? As I'm recording this, it was the opening weekend of Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day, which is just an old school, big feeling science fiction escape thriller. And so much of the negativity and criticism that's being levied at this movie that I really loved, so much of it is basically like, that's not really how it would happen. To which I say, correct? This is a movie that we're watching. We're not just staring into a mirror. And I can already tell that the same sort of bad faith criticism that's being levied at Disclosure Day is going to come at Aaron Sorkin. I mean, this guy, he is probably going to talk about January 6th in his second Social Network movie. He's probably going to. Is he going to check every box that you need for his commentary on that to be perfect? Absolutely not. He's definitely not going to. He's going to zag, and he's going to zag in the service of a broader point that is going to elide some of the facts on the ground. And that's okay. That's what my guy does. There's so much failure of enjoyment around narrative art lately. And honestly, it's not even that's not how it would have happened. That's not how I imagined it. And I suppose in the era of ChatGPT and of dying imagination, I suppose I should embrace this a little bit. I should embrace that people are writing the movie in their head before they see it and then getting mad that it's not what they wrote. Because at least they're doing that, But a movie like Disclosure Day will sweep you away if you let it. And that's the real power of movies, and that's really what Disclosure Day is even about. Aaron Sorkin can sweep you away with his words if you let him. But it feels like there are increasingly few people in the world who are willing to let that happen. I'm one of the few left, and therefore I'm excited for the social reckoning.
Listen, before I go on, I want to make something clear.
And by the way, while we're on the subject of this, I'm going to go ahead and induct the original Social Network film into the Make a Mixtape movie canon. It should already be there. I mean, this movie has perhaps the most iconic score of any movie in the last 25 years. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This movie is where they found their thing. There would be no Challengers score were there not a Social Network score. One of the most obvious and deserved wins in Oscar history. Two of the most, because Aaron Sorkin won Best Adapted Screenplay. This is not my observation, but The Social Network, like many Aaron Sorkin projects, involves multiple overlapping court proceedings. They're different depositions that are happening at the same time. The whole movie, arguably, is like a series of nested flashbacks. But something that's incredibly cool about the opening scene between Jesse Eisenberg and Rooney Mara that they famously shot 99 takes of, something that's so cool about that scene is that their conversation has all of these structured flashbacks and callbacks within it. They're talking about one thing and they move on quickly to another subject, but then they jump back.
Did you know there are more people with genius IQs living in China than there are people of any kind living in the United States?
That can't possibly be true.
It is.
What would account for that?
Well, first, an awful lot of people live in China, but here's my question. How do you distinguish yourself in a population of people who all got 1,600 on their SATs?
I didn't know they take SATs in China.
They don't. I wasn't talking about China anymore. I was talking about me.
You got a 1,600?
Yes. I could sing in an a cappella group, but I can't
Does that
sing.
mean you actually got nothing
I
wrong?
could row crew or invent a $25 PC.
Or you get into a final club?
Or I get into a final club.
From a woman's perspective, sometimes not singing in an a cappella group is a good thing.
This is serious.
On the other hand, I do like guys who row crew.
Well, I can't do that.
I was kidding.
Yes, I got nothing wrong on the test.
Have you ever tried?
I'm trying right now.
To row crew?
To get into a final club. To row crew? No, are you like Whatever, delusional?
Maybe it's just sometimes you say two things at once. I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to be aiming at.
But you've seen guys who row crew, right?
Saying that a movie teaches you how to watch it is sort of a cliche phrase at this point, but in fact, it's true. This opening scene is teaching you how the rest of the movie is going to feel. And so that Trent and Atticus score is kind of like the obvious reason to put this movie in the Make a Mixtape movie canon, but it's also the music of Aaron Sorkin's script that is equally important. You know, in some ways, Aaron Sorkin is one of my favorite musicians. He just plays a keyboard, not a keyboard. I almost said that he uses a typewriter, which I'm certain that he doesn't use a typewriter. However, I imagine there are at least pieces of his script that originate on yellow legal pads, right? Like, they just have to. If you've never seen The Social Network, please do so very quickly. I think it's fair to say it's my favorite movie of all time. It's definitely the movie that I've watched the most times in my life. So a big concern about The Social Reckoning is that Aaron Sorkin's directing it himself. He does not have the immovable force of David Fincher to refine and perfect his work. I agree, this is concerning. However, I will say Aaron Sorkin has directed at least one movie very well, and that movie is called Molly's Game. Is Molly's Game objectively a good movie? No. Is it wildly entertaining? Yes. If you put it on right now, and by the way, it is free on YouTube right now. If you were to put it on, would you be able to pull yourself away for at least the first 15, 20 minutes? I don't think you would. And here's the thing. For some reason, several years ago, me and Tom, a longtime friend of the show, recorded like a 30-minute conversation about Molly's Game. I had absolutely no reason to put it into a podcast episode because Molly's Game was like 5 years old at the time. Now it's 9 years old. So like we're not even at the 10-year anniversary, but we're talking about Aaron Sorkin. And so I thought, this is a good time to finally share this half-hour conversation about Molly's Game, because I really enjoyed having it. I guess my recommendation is go to YouTube, watch this movie, come back, listen to this conversation, and then, I mean, if you want to talk about Molly's Game more, like, I guess call me on the phone or something. Like, I'm happy to talk about Molly's Game, or really any Aaron Sorkin project except for the Lucille Ball movie, anytime. I'll also just say, listening back to this conversation, first of all, I found it to be like a pretty interesting point-counterpoint about like methods for interpreting art. And I actually realized that this was a 30-minute digression from a conversation that originally started about the Paul Schrader movie, The Card Counter. So every once in a while, you hear us make reference to some other movie we were talking about before, and that's the movie, The Card Counter, Paul Schrader, starring Oscar Isaac. Great movie. Irrelevant today, other than those references in the conversation. Okay, here you go.
I started talking about Molly's Game on Twitter, where Morgan and I were shocked to discover that you said that you do not like Molly's Game. Well, actually, that's not shocking. It's fine to not like Molly's Game. It's a very flawed movie. Sort of, for people who are big Aaron Sorkin fans, it's sort of fantastically flawed. You know, you're sort of like, I absolutely love these flaws. This is all I want. But you know, and furthermore, you know, you seem to indicate that you did not even like the best movie of the 21st century, The Social Network. But you know, we'll table that for now. Talk to me about Molly's Game, which is another movie about poker, in which the poker is sort of like gloriously incomprehensible. Just a torrent of terminology and words. And in terms of the kind of moral question of that movie, I think it's a lot simpler, which is like, you know, how often does your ego get in the way of doing the right thing, but at the same time, how often is your ego the facilitator of you doing the right thing? And to me, it's kind of about, for both Idris Elba and Jessica Chastain, it's kind of about, I think they see in each other this tendency to misbalance the two things, and they kind of help each other get it right. Which is, to me, that's in past screenings of it, the Kevin Costner dad stuff really got to me. As like a person, I love like movie dads, and I just think Kevin Costner's like performance in his like one big scene It's just like it's the apex Aaron Sorkin dad.
Okay, yep.
But upon a second viewing of Molly's Game, I was really all about that relationship between Idris Elba and Jessica Chastain. And I just thought it was, I don't know, it was interesting and fun and kind of like just peppy.
I felt like they had no chemistry together, to the point where dialogue scenes between the two of them felt like they weren't even in the same room when they were shot.
Is that because Idris Elba has like a wandering accent?
Maybe a little bit. It's really just there's a timing thing. There's something about the delivery with the Jessica Chastain too, especially in her narration, where it's just like zipping along at this like breakneck pace. You can like hear the pauses that have been edited out, you know, where the sentences are just slamming together to get through all of this like crazy narration. But they just, especially in the early on, the scenes where it's cutting back and forth that they're not clearly in the room together, they just don't feel like they're connecting.
Interesting. Well,
I also have a theory that I think Kevin Costner's face might just be frozen in a particular expression of disappointed father, and those are just the only roles he'll take anymore.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen Yellowstone, but that's the big one these days, right? For Costner heads. But yeah, I imagine he's playing a disappointed father. I mean, what else? That show seems like that's the only thing it could be about. So yeah. All right. Well, I would say that like that's a funny thing about Aaron Sorkin, right? Is like that sort of lack of chemistry is kind of his thing. Like there's a lot of like miscast relationships in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of like there's I don't know. Sometimes it feels like intentionally like a performance, which like I'm okay with. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with movies where it seems like people are acting. Like, and I think that's true about a lot of Aaron Sorkin because the way that he writes dialogue is so like theatrical. It's so funny. I've been rewatching The West Wing too. And I love it. It's great, but it's so funny how it seemed realistic in any way to people, you know, like a president who says like, I say thee, yay, you know, you're like, what?
Oh boy.
That at no point did people like, not why did anyone ever think like this is just the most ridiculous level of theater?
I do have a list of my cringiest lines from Molly's Game that we could go over at some point.
Absolutely love it. Hit me with it.
I actually wanted to like contact you ahead of time and be like, can you pick your favorite lines from the movie and we'll see if they overlap at all.
Gosh, I don't know that I have a favorite line because the lines of that movie don't stick out to me like in a certain way, sort of like, I mean, obviously you can't handle the truth from like A Few Good Men or things like that. But then like even, you know, The Social Network has so many super quotable lines. Like if you invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. Like I'm 6'2", 190 pounds, and there's two of me. Those are like amazing lines. So I'm not sure that I have a lot of that in Molly's Game, but I'm sure that I'm going to love some of the ones on your list.
Okay. The refrain of "That's how quickly" just goes to that over and over again in there. That's something I'd always like just a little bit when there's a repeated phrase over and over again. It's like, that's how quickly it happens. The Cinemax version of myself was not a fan of that. That is some Schedule 1 bullshit. I was in a hole so deep I could go fracking. This is like something that like a 1920s private eye would say.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
Then there's a whole series of vaguely German pun-based ones about one guy who happens to be German. Like Otto von Bismarck now has 2 pair. Captain von Trapp bluffed 2 pair. Goes on like that for a little while.
See, in those points, in those poker scenes, I'm just like letting the words wash over me. I'm not even hearing it. You know, it's like ambient tone to me.
Yeah. I do think, taking a quick diversion, that's definitely a structure of the film, is that it's presenting you with things and then deliberately not giving you the context to understand what they mean and then revealing what those are later on for effect, for impact. Like the thing that like the only like actually illegal thing I guess she does, they keep referring to, I forget what it's
Taking
called.
a rake?
The rake, yeah, but they don't tell you what that is
Mhm.
until like the moment where she actually does it in the film. So that was one of the few highlights for me.
Yeah, I do like that. There's the whole language washing over you thing is definitely something that Aaron Sorkin does on purpose, but it does have that effect where it's like it's a perfected version of what he used to do on The West Wing all the time. On The West Wing all the time, there'd be these scenes where a person would be like, "Did you tell him about the thing?" "No, I didn't tell him about the thing." And you don't know what the thing is.
Yeah.
And there's like 6 different references to the thing until you finally hear them say what the thing is once they're like in the Oval Office with the president. And that's like the dumb, irritating version. And there's this dividing line in Aaron Sorkin's career, right? Which is The Social Network, where after The Social Network, he stops writing about fictional worlds. And everything he writes about is real. Moneyball, Molly's Game, Social Network, The Newsroom. And when he crosses over that line, he learns to take some of the formulas from like The West Wing that were a little contrived and use them to use real world things to like to fill in what used to be kind of like placeholder text, and so that those tricks they get better.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of essential in this story too, because I think in order for it to work as like what appears to be like a feel good story, they really have to conceal like kind of who Molly is in this story, you know, and let you get through it feeling like this is a positive story for this person, when in reality, Molly is probably the worst person in the whole story.
Right. There's something that's very funny about that is that like that's why I was thinking about it in terms of the morality question that it's asking, because like most Aaron Sorkin movies are asking some kind of morality question. And that's the one, right? There's the scene where maybe this is on your list where Idris Elba says she doesn't belong in a courtroom, she belongs on a box of Wheaties. And
I was probably writing down a different line when that one went by.
But that's like what the movie's about, right? In one line, basically. And in order for that to be true, Molly Bloom and Charlie both have to be these kind of like people who are virtuous outside of the rules of their systems. So like Charlie takes on Molly as a client for free because of it. This is my favorite scene in the movie, when he figures out why she wouldn't sell her debt sheet to make her money back after like her assets are seized by the government. And it's because she's afraid that people on the debt sheet someone might get hurt. She says, because I could not confirm, or what I couldn't know how they were going to collect the debt. And that's when he goes like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you on as a client."
Yes, this is great because we both agree that this is like a pivotal scene, like the whole thing. But we completely disagree on what the significance of that is.
Okay.
But to finish my list here, that's gonna make some noise enough to be heard on Rodeo Drive. It's like these are lines being said by 18, 20-year-old girls in the 2000s, and it's like no one would ever speak like that in that context.
It's very funny to imagine that Jessica Chastain is supposed to be like just out of college. Like, okay, that's fine.
Because It's All I Have Left, which was so bad that in the moment it was like played for a joke, like a meta commentary on like what a ridiculous thing that was to say.
Well, because it's supposed to be kind of like from The Crucible, right?
Yes, but I think I would guess that's a retroactive tweaking of that.
Interesting. It just made me affectionately remember The Wire, because it kind of reminded me, think of Marlowe's "My Name Is My Name" from The Wire, which is one of those lines from a TV show that just kind of like bounces around in my head 24/7.
Yeah. I also think she's probably not being honest in that moment. And then the last one, and this probably kind of ruined the movie for me because it happens very early on, but a digitally remastered Spinal Cord. I just like when that line hits, I just latched onto that and I go, "What are you talking about?"
I loved that. Oh, man.
I knew it would be one.
Yeah, I love that kind of.
Well, what does what does one have to do with the other? What does digitally remastering have to do with spinal cords?
Well,
that's what gets me is when you're mixing things like that. They don't really have a correlation, or at least not when I see.
I don't think Aaron Sorkin would actually know the actual technical definition of digitally remastered unless he has to write a script about a person whose job it is to digitally remaster things, at which point he would learn it very, very well. But
yes,
I think he just likes the phrase. So that's, but
exactly.
So to go back to the courtroom scene where Idris Elba decides to represent Molly, I don't know if that part about Molly Bloom is true or not. I would sort of be surprised if it was, because, like you said, I'm pretty sure Molly Bloom in real life was not a very good person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there was this thread of virtue throughout her decision making as she ran an illegal poker ring. But in order for it to be a story told by Aaron Sorkin, there has to be this thread of virtue. But that's okay with me, because I basically had there's this movie right now, Tar, the Cate Blanchett movie.
Oh yeah.
And people keep getting upset that she's not a real person. And it's like, no, she's it's a Cate Blanchett movie. What? Just because it's a character who doesn't shoot lasers out of her hands, you think she might be based on a real person or something? So I had the opposite feeling with Molly's Game, which was never for a moment did I think about the fact that Molly Bloom was a living human being. Like, I was like, okay, these are all made up characters. Idris Elba's character is definitely made up. He has the same last name as Robert Guillaume's character from Sports Night. So it's supposed to be, I don't know, his son within the Aaron Sorkin connected universe. Which actually there's kind of a funny accent thread there, because I don't know if Robert Guillaume was British or what, but he's one of those guys who, when he did the voice of Rafiki in The Lion King. But he was a great character on Sports Night, but when he would get angry, sometimes like a funny accent would come through, which is, I think, something Aaron Sorkin really loves. Like, I mean, he's got Martin Sheen has that Kennedy accent where it's like, where are you from that you're saying some of these words this way? And Idris Elba is the same way, where Idris Elba is playing, I think, an American in Molly's Game, but when he gets upset, his accent starts to sort of slip halfway out, and they don't really do anything about it, which I like. Like, I'm glad that nobody stopped him.
No second takes. Let's get it. We got it. We're good.
But yeah, I mean, I just, in this sort of same way, not exactly the same way, but in the same way that the card counter feels like it's taking place in an entirely fictional universe where the rules that govern human behavior are mostly suspended. I feel the same way. I feel the same way about most Aaron Sorkin projects.
With this movie, for me, I feel like in terms of the morality, it's the message that it's saying, like the moral statement of the movie, or at least in Molly's Game, is that anything is justifiable as long as you worked hard. That if you worked really hard at it, you earned it, and it does not matter what no other ethical or moral concerns need to come into play. And I think that governs pretty much everything that she does, and most of the important backstory scenes we see with her.
I think that's a fair critique of Aaron Sorkin in general, because I think people working hard is the most important thing to him. People at work, people doing a good job at their jobs. But he does stop to self-critique fairly often. This is the thing that I'm always saying, that I'm always like, whenever people, criticize Aaron Sorkin for, like, not being great at writing female characters or that kind of thing, I am always like, but he is far more aware of it than people who critique him think he is, because he is very often stopping to call attention to the fact that he has these problems. And it's it happens very frequently in The West Wing, where characters will be very doggedly pursuing something, and only once they have achieved it will they stop and be like, well, what was the point of doing all of this? You know? And in the end, you know, maybe we were motivated by the wrong things. And there's actually a very great early episode of The West Wing called Enemies that's exactly about that. It's like, sometimes, sort of like Molly's game too, it's like sometimes what's motivating you is your ego, and it's great that you're pursuing something so hard, and there is honor in pursuing something hard, but you know, maybe you were aiming in just a little bit the wrong direction, and you need a little bit of a course correction. And I think every writer who's writing anything is mostly saying it to themselves. And so that's something that I think I engage with a lot about as a person who's consumed vast amounts of Aaron Sorkin content. I'm going to find a way to talk about Moneyball in an episode coming up soon, because I don't know a lot of the only stuff I really know about baseball I learned from Moneyball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the father too, I feel like every time he's like a horrible guy. He's a liar, serial adulterer, and just this toxic, overbearing presence in his child's lives. But because the children are successful, it justifies everything that he did. And his redemption is just Molly accepting that. He comes back into her life and says, well, you're all successful, therefore I deserve forgiveness. And by the end of the movie, they're back to a happy family. So it's not that he actually did anything to redeem himself. It's just that she accepted the fact that like that all justified it. And I think that really informs everything that she does, you know, like that early scene at like the dinner table where she's like, when can I have my own, you know, thoughts and opinions? And it's like, well, when you earn them for yourself. And I think that's sort of what kicks her off on being, as long as I earn it, nothing else matters. Yeah, I think that's how she kind of runs every decision she makes from that point on. And like with the debt sheet, I don't think, even though it's like presented to us as if she cares about the people at like her players, I don't think she has any, I don't think she cares about the well-being of those people whatsoever. I think that it's very revealing when she's talking to the Irish guy. I can't remember his name.
Chris O'Dowd.
Yes, talking to Chris O'Dowd. And she essentially says that she sees them as swine. She sees herself as Cersei, you know, turning these people into animals. I think that's really indicative of how she looks at them, because you think about Player X and, you know, how he's presented as like the villain of the movie. But when I think about it, as awful as he is, I don't think he does anything that is as bad as when Molly continues to allow Gene, that one guy, to continue to play after she knows that he's ruined. He's gone. Like he's not coming back from that spiral.
Yeah, well, she tries to talk him out of it a couple of times though.
But
she keeps pulling him out to the balcony, you know?
Yes, and I think that's the whitewashing of it, the retro. But she keeps letting him play and essentially dig himself into a hole that she knows he can't come back from. And that's the only guy. It said that she says that's the only guy at the table who's really in danger of being ruined by this game. Everybody else can essentially lose as much money as they want. And yeah, I mean, she to me seems worse than him. I mean, that's like outside of the gangster who attacks her, that's like the worst thing anyone does in the movie is let somebody ruin their life like that. But I think the movie essentially says, at least the morality that's created by the movie says that it's fine because Molly did the work to earn it. And I think with the debt sheet, that's the real reason she doesn't want to give up the debt sheet, is because those debts are things that she worked for and earned, and to give them to someone else would be to give them to someone who didn't earn them, which completely undercuts the whole moral framework of the world that she's created for herself. I don't think she cares at all about what would happen to those people.
I think that makes sense. I think that has, there's a little bit of like real world reality blending into that kind of like interpretation, because I think that as opposed to somebody like Paul Schrader, who does mostly showing and not telling, and in what you end up creating is a world in which there's a lot to be interpreted, Aaron Sorkin mostly interprets for you, right? So if the character, if Molly is like doesn't want to do something, doesn't want to sell the debt sheet, and then Idris Elba is like, you didn't want to sell the debt sheet because you didn't want those people to get hurt, within the reality constructed by the movie, that is the reason, right? Because there's no indication that there's any subtext or at no point is it ever indicated that Molly and Charlie are lying to each other about anything, right? They're always telling each other the truth. So maybe you end up with a more interesting and complicated movie if you create a world in which that's not true. But for the most part, like the motivations and rules of this movie are like extremely explicit, you know?
Yes.
Like everyone says what they mean, and we are intended to think that is true. Like we're not really intended to be suspicious of it. We might think that the story is too contrived to believe that, or the performance isn't exactly calibrated correctly. Which again, I will say, slightly miscalibrated Aaron Sorkin performances are some of my favorites. There's back on in the old days of Sports Night, which was like where I first got onto the whole Aaron Sorkin thing. Josh Charles, who plays Dan Rydell, like consistently seems to almost like get lines wrong, like get the meaning of lines wrong, and almost like say a line with the wrong emphasis. And it turned out that he would clash with Aaron Sorkin very frequently about lots of things. And so that was, you know, I've never worked with him again. But it's so funny because it's like what your character is saying right now doesn't even make sense, because you're like changing the emphasis to spite Aaron Sorkin or something. But that, I don't know, it just makes it interesting to me for some reason. It sticks in my head. And so I guess as a person who likes language almost more than anything else, like I will always like eat up Aaron Sorkin movies like candy. I even mostly liked Being the Ricardos. There's a frame story in Being the Ricardos that's terrible. Like it's sort of supposed to look like a documentary or something, and it's some of the worst acting and some of and some of the worst writing that Aaron Sorkin has ever done. So if you could take that part out of the movie, Being the Ricardos, it'd be pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I can forgive a lot because I just like the, you know, the timbre and the meter and the word choice.
Yeah, I guess it raises an interesting question of whether we approach a movie as what we receive or what we think the movie is intending us to receive.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Because I'm definitely taking the tack of like, I'm making a movie for myself out of what I see on there, as opposed to, and essentially sidestepping what I think was the intended message. But I think a lot of that is because I think there's the movie that Aaron Sorkin created, and then there's the unconscious movie that exists below it. That's I think a bit more revealing of probably what he actually thinks and feels about the world that he's created.
That might be
I think
true.
so much of what he does too is very telling of his actual sentiments about things. I think he's the classic politically centrist person who is actually very right wing and doesn't really realize that, you know?
I can see that there's something about not right wing in the modern sense, but right wing in the, you know, 1970s sense. Yes, there is kind of the centrism of that he like pursues, and it's also, but it's something that is very, very Democratic Party, which is this pursuit and belief in civility that
Mhm.
you are just being shown over and over and over again does not exist, you know?
Yeah.
And so Aaron Sorkin can get on TV and complain about AOC and really believe it and mean it.
Mhm.
Because he really still believes that there is this era of civility we could go back to somehow. But I do think with every like passing project, he moves a little closer to the light. And I'm interested to see where, I don't know how much longer he's going to be at it, but I'm interested to see where he ends up in the end, because he
Mhm.
could become very reactionary and closer to being like a right-wing kind of person, or he could go the other way.
Mhm.
The trial of the Chicago Seven is like a weird, interesting case study
Yes.
for that, where that idea of his belief in civility, you can see him testing it against himself.
Mhm.
Like, I think he still comes down on the side of it, because like ultimately that movie ends with Eddie Redmayne's character doing this very like sort of profound act of protest in a courtroom, but that's the civilized choice at that point because the court has become so uncivilized. But
Yes.
still, throughout that whole movie, you can kind of see him going like, he's like sticking his finger in the socket of like, maybe I'm wrong, which is like,
Mhm.
it's interesting to see. But to go back to the interpretation question for a second,
Yes.
like I'm the opposite of you, which is interesting to hear,
Mhm.
because I feel like I'm always very aggressively trying to meet whatever I'm watching or reading or whatever on its own terms. And
Mm.
what frustrates me as a viewer or a consumer is when sometimes I feel like I can't find it. Like I
Yeah.
can't find what the intention was.
Mhm.
And so then I'm like, where is it, man? Like I'm trying to meet you wherever you are, man. And you're not like giving me a door.
Uh-huh.
But like I feel that way about, I was trying to watch Ocean's 12, which Ocean's 12, I'm like, I don't get it. Where are you, man? Like I know it's Steven Soderbergh and he's like very experimental and everything, but I'm like, I'm having a hard time finding where I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
And I want to get there for you, but like, yeah. So anyway.
There's definitely those movies where everybody shows up to work and they just have a great time working with each other, and what comes out the other end is almost incomprehensible as a movie because everybody was
Yeah.
just having too much of a good time on set.
Right. That's true. That's funny. Yeah, and yeah, I think that now we're kind of like, we're in this era of like, that's what the movie Tar is about, right? Is about like questioning the idea of like the problematic genius.
Mhm.
And I don't think you need to be a problematic genius. I don't think you need to like I don't think you need to be like David Fincher and make people do like 98 takes of a scene
Yes.
in order to get what you want.
Mhm.
But there is a balance, right? There's also like, whoever Adam Sandler hires to direct a movie who just kind of like points the camera at stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so like, but somewhere in the middle is the path, and I don't know what we're running out of
There's a
time, but
great movie. Great
yeah.
movie just came out called Banshees of Inisherin that I don't know if you've seen for that one. That's the same guy who did In Bruges.
No, but I
got,
was gonna say I love Martin McDonagh, so I'm definitely to see it.
It's another problematic genius movie, but
Mm.
told from the perspective of the problematic genius's boring friend. This is very, it's just a great, I loved it. Great film. But yeah,
Yeah.
getting back to the topics at hand.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you, because I was like,
Yeah.
all right, what's something you think of that's like, what's something you're like, I like that kind of writing? Because I
yeah.
know you're like a word guy, but if you don't like Aaron
Uh-huh.
Sorkin, then what do you like?
Yeah, I guess the reason I don't like Aaron Sorkin is because I feel like he can't do voice. I feel like all of his characters sound like Aaron Sorkin, and so I listen to an Aaron Sorkin thing, and it just sounds like Aaron Sorkin talking to himself.
Right.
Which I guess
true. That's true. That's
which
why I like
guess
it.
for others is a feature and not a bug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think to think of something. Glenn Ross is like the go-to for me for dialogue that I think is incredible. Just on its face written it, as well as 12 Angry Men is definitely one of my all-time favorite movies, and that's just fantastic. How strongly each of those individual voices comes through. That's another example of a movie that I would interpret it in a completely different way than I think what the movie's actually asking me to interpret it as.
Well, Glengarry Glen Ross is a funny example because we were talking about sometimes people, even people that show up to set, aren't necessarily on the same page. One thing that is like kind of a feature and not a bug of Glengarry Glen Ross is that like everyone's doing something different.
Yes.
Like Alan Arkin is like in full like jazz percussion mode in that movie. Like all he's doing is being like boots, shoes, bleeds, you know? and then like then you got like, you know, you've got your Alec Baldwin guitar solo in there, and then like all those famous Al Pacino like runs of dialogue are so insane. Like when he's like, "Let me buy you a pack of gum, show you how to chew it."
Like the choices to like pause mid-sentence to deliver a line that's clearly supposed to go somewhere else to like that guy and then turn back around to finish what he was saying to the first actor is just, it's great.
That movie, the Alec Baldwin speech gets all the play, right? Like that's the one on YouTube. But like the last 10 minutes of that movie when like everything is falling apart and like the ruse and basically like who the thief was is like revealed and all that stuff. That's like amazing. I could watch that section of Glengarry Glen Ross 100 times in a row.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I might even watch it after this interview.
Thanks for listening to Make a Mixtape. This episode featured background music by Zach Little and by Isaac Haynes. It was written by Aaron Sorkin and directed by David Fincher.